Hello and welcome to the inaugural edition of the Silver Screen and Roll podcast. We're very excited to bring this into the coverage we provide here. This is Drew, better known as Basketball Reasons, and today joining me will be two more contributors.
So I guess I'll start. I'm Ben R. I think most of you guys have known me for about a year now, and past that if you've been around the blog.
And this is Blake. I write as the Great Mambino.
And we'll be going through a little bit of off-season stuff, some media day coverage, some training camp talk, Dwight Howard, Steve Blake. We got a lot of content to throw at you guys today. So let's go ahead and kick it off. A little story time here. Our most memorable parts about the off-season. So we had a lot going on, obviously, with Dwight Howard and Steve Nash coming on board. Ben.
Who? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Oh. Okay, this is awesome. Great.
Blake just got on a time machine after we lost to OKC and came right to us right now.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Yes. But, yes, so we got Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, a loaded-up bench, top to bottom. I'm very excited about that. And a whole lot of coaching staff changes. So with all that, what's your guys' most memorable part about this all, though?
I think I'll have to go with Nash, mainly because it came so far out of left field, because Howard is something we've been looking at for years now, just like Howard for Bynum, like in some form will happen. And just Nash, I think we never really considered it as a possibility until the day before, and they started releasing stories that, the Lakers might be interested in Nash, and we're kind of dismissing it like, yeah, that's nice. That's nice that you're doing this. But no, when it happened, I think especially that, because it just changed the entire direction of our off season, because we were pretty much in the dumps at that point, and to go and just go from a average or maybe slightly above average point guard Ramon Sessions to one of the top 5, maybe top 8 or so point guards in the game was just a momentous change, even more so than the Howard trade. Howard trade, we were already established at that point as probably one of the top 3 teams in the West.
Definitely. What about you, Blake?
I mean, yeah, it has to be the Nash deal. I felt like the Howard, just the same as Ben was saying, I felt the Howard deal was in the works for so long. I mean, even people were writing 2.5 years ago, let's not pretend that Dwight Howard's not going to eventually end up on the Lakers. And so, I also think that along with getting Nash, which, it just came out of left field, and I didn't hear about it even until, a couple hours before the trade even. It was just, I just thought it was kind of the usual speculation that everybody good will eventually end up on the Lakers. I just thought it was...
Wait. You mean that doesn't work that way?
It obviously does. But I thought the second most shocking thing I thought was that as the Oklahoma series ended and Powell had his second extremely lackluster series in a row, I thought he was gone. I mean, I thought that there was just no chance that at his salary, at his age, and the fact that even though he had 2 pretty good regular seasons in a row, he had 2 really poor postseasons in a row. And I just thought, considering that he was our only other trade chip, in addition to Bynum, and considering how many holes we had in the roster, the problems at small forward, the problems in the bench, having very late round draft picks, et cetera, I thought that he was a goner. I thought that there was almost no way that he sticks around, even if it was for, one of these junk trades with Minnesota or Denver or whoever else was.
Oh, yeah. There was those talks about Minnesota being a trading partner of Pau Gasol, and I'm just sitting there wondering, like, oh my God, what kind of scraps are we going to get?
Yeah. No, it was, definitely just the devising all the random 3-team trades, all the I think people throughout the entire year we kept on going back to, at least I thought one of the likely scenarios is we're just going to go back to Houston and trade him for Lowry and parts or something, and I thought that was going to be our off season essentially.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So mine, obviously, I'm going with Nash as well. I mean, that was like Pau Gasol out of nowhere, left field status, most memorable and surprising part of the offseason.
Well, I guess if we all agree on...
I got a good, yeah.
Then what would you say was the second most surprising?
Well, second most surprising is kind of like, I have to piggyback on what you just said, is the fact that we got Dwight Howard without trading Pau Gasol with him in some way, shape, or form is unbelievable, because when you look at the first report that came out, everybody went into panic mode because we weren't going to have Pau Gasol flanking Dwight Howard in that trade. We were going to have Al Harrington. And it was such a tough thing to consider because
I actually threw up when I heard that.
It was terrible.
But it was just such a drastic thing. It's like on one hand you get Dwight, but on the other hand, at the sacrifice of having to play with Al Harrington. And
I'll change up a little bit. I think Dwight was surprising in the sense that we finally got him, but I think the change to the, at least in part of the coaching staff, I was just surprised at how fast that I suppose they started to change philosophy. Since at least we started last year, we said that we were going to do the Spurs offense. They brought in Chris Paul because they knew that Brown would need a good point guard to lead that offense, and we were bad in the perimeter. So just that we would go from that, the heavy pick and roll stuff, which we presumably will still do next year, but still to implement the Princeton, which it will help Nash in the pick and roll stuff, but it also will bring attention to other things off the ball and bring us back to a motion-based system. I was just surprised that we would make that transition back to a more motion-based offense so quickly after deciding to go with a straight conventional pick and roll attack.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, you got to consider is, like you said, we went to the Spurs offense after ditching the triangle, literally saying goodbye, not even looking back once. But you got to consider how the offense was flowing last season. There was definitely a need for a change. I think there was a point in the regular season where Ramon Session was really clicking and the offense was really moving, in my opinion. But it fell apart later in the season after he came back with a shoulder injury. You look at the early parts of the season through the majority of the season, and it was a lot of Kobe just trying to do what he could. Bynum obviously had a breakout year, but it was never a very fluent offense. And Mike Brown, I mean, as great as he is considered on the defensive end, let's not pretend that his time with the Spurs made him an offensive genius by any means. Yeah. So it's definitely, I think, a step in the right direction. I mean, when they got the talent of Steve Nash, I think that's the first point where they realized something's got to change because our offense can't be the way it was last season. We need something in place that's going to exploit defenses and give us our best chance with Kobe and a fantastic point guard that can really control the tempo. I think it was a necessary change, though. I mean, it was pretty stark how quickly they changed, and it's kind of surprising. Like, I think honestly, with the way they changed the coaching staff, Mike Brown is definitely on a short leash because they've changed everything but Mike Brown in the offseason.
Yeah, more or less. No, the motion of Kuster to the scouting, I think that was a really, really
they sent him to the moon, man.
Yeah, they sent him to the moon. It was because it's a sad demotion. You wonder. I think I wrote about this in the initial piece when it came out, like why he would accept that if you presume that he could probably get an assistant job elsewhere, because that's a pretty significant demotion to go from assistant coach to a scout. But yeah, I definitely agree that this is a sign to Brown that, hey, we just hired two guys in Eddie Jordan and Bernie Bickerstaff who have been former head coaches, and like you screw up, this is behind you. I think, but also I think that especially Bickerstaff, I think was a little soft to Brown to help him with the team because of they apparently have a close relationship since Bickerstaff was the one to give him his first coaching job. So I think you're right in the sense that you're on a short leash. We did this to help you. You don't have to do the offense anymore. Eddie Jordan will do that. You will help the locker room with Bernie Bickerstaff, but if you don't come out this year, bad shit's going to go down.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's supposed to be the defensive genius. You got Ron Artest, his reputation as a defensive player. You have Dwight Howard, who clearly is one of the most dominant defensive players we've seen in probably the last 10 years. Mike Brown, he has the tools to succeed defensively, even if he has maybe some lackluster defense on the perimeter with Nash and Blake and our backups. But Mike Brown's definitely going to have to hold up his end. He was brought in as reputation with the Spurs offense and mainly for the defensive recognition. But you know what? In the end, I think he's obviously very hungry for a title just as anybody else is. He had all those years with LeBron in Cleveland, and it's not talked about much because it's narrative and it is what it is. But he's had a lot of years where he hasn't been validated, and he's clearly been around the league for a long time now. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him do well this year. He has a lot of tools at his disposal. He has a great coaching staff, some great philosophies coming in. So
definitely.
Yeah, but Dwight Howard, I mean, where do you begin with talking about that? Let's just move forward. I mean, let's not act like there's nothing bigger in Los Angeles than Dwight Howard right now, because that is huge. It has been in the making for, as Blake said, 2.5 years at least. People have been talking about it since they played in the finals. Dwight Howard needs to come to Hollywood. That's his calling. He's got to follow in the footsteps of all the greats, and here he is.
Can you think of another player that really, in the last maybe 5 to 8 years, has really been talked about as being a guy who will obviously be a Laker at some point? I mean, I can't think of anybody at any point, even 2.5 years ago, I had serious thoughts that he was going to be a Laker one day. I just thought it was meant to be, and it just seemed right with the lineage of big men in the city, and in terms of his personality and things like that. Is there anybody else in the league even who you can think of that comes to mind?
No. I mean, flat out, there's never been a phenomenon like that. I mean, no. I think the only thing that's even close to it is LeBron leaving Cleveland. And that's complete opposite.
I remember thinking for a couple of years that it was kind of destiny for LeBron to end up in New York and for him to win a title and in MSG, and for him to be the savior of New York basketball. But other than that, I mean, I can't even think of a situation where it felt
bound to happen, man.
There's no reason to think it would happen. I mean, he took a team to the NBA Finals. He was transformed a team full of stiffs. It took them all the way past everybody. He beat everybody that year. And I can't, it blows my mind to think that this happened in the way it happened, even though everybody in the league kind of knew it would. And you would think that anybody would just throw their bodies in front of this seemingly inevitable train. It's
don't let it happen. Not again.
Yeah. I used to give props to poor Daryl Morey, who's had quite the off season. I think he at least gave a game attempt to forestall that. But I think the biggest thing that sealed the kind of inevitability is once we kind of realized what we had in Bynum, and then that as soon as he broke out in 07, 08, and then we realized that, hey, he's going to be really, really good. He's young, and then suddenly we have the best piece. We to trade for Howard.
No way, man. Brook Lopez.
Yeah, Brook Lopez, man. Oh God, the solid player. It's just that the hard to build around a guy who's on a max deal who can't rebound and plays pretty bad defense. So.
If he plays at all.
If he plays at all, precisely. Yeah, no. It was the most amusing thing about last summer after the veto went down, and we're thinking about okay, like we didn't get Paul. Let's go to Howard. All the Nets fans were like, well, we have Lopez. And Lopez has been healthy. And like literally 2 days later, he gets the stress fracture in his foot.
That was all they had. Lopez has been healthy. Bynum has a Robocop leg. That's all that was there. And it was just he went down. And it was like, all right, well. Checkmate.
Yeah. and last year just turned that completely on its head. Yeah, but going back to your question on Howard, I think ultimately what we have to consider, I think it all comes back to his defense. Like we talked about whether he's equal to Bynum in some aspects. We know he's better than Bynum in some aspects on as a roll man, as a cutter, and so on and such forth. But I think it still doesn't sink into people the difference between Bynum and Howard as on that end. Just Howard disrupting the pick and roll, Howard as a weak side defender, Howard even as a straight up post defender. I think how dominant he is, I think is something that's still not really appreciated. It's hard to wrap our minds around like something that led him to 3 DPOI trophies.
I think the other thing that's hard to wrap our minds around is the fact that he tries. How about that?
Effort.
A center who will willingly and happily defend, knowing that not only is it what got him paid in the first place, what got him famous in the first place, what got him trophies and accolades and national media attention. Let's think about the fact that he cares about it. And it's the thing he's best at. And furthermore, we're coming from a center who, we've all written about this and talked about this, on how much we love Andrew Bynum. And I don't mean to disparage
Love Bynum.
Definitely.
love writing about him, love everything about him. But the fact is that he is a guy who will take weeks off. No, and I'm not saying this facetiously or for any type of exaggerative purposes, but he literally will stop defending for weeks at a time. And now we're looking at a guy who that's all he seemingly cares about.
I would have loved to have seen Bynum with a point guard like Steve Nash. Nash could have turned him into something serviceable, I think, in the pick and roll.
I mean, just look at what Nash did with the
Marcin Gortat.
Steve Nash, that is, again, we all agreed this is the most surprising part of the offseason. Steve Nash completely changed the direction of the team, the philosophies, the personnel we have. I mean, he's going to change everything about the Lakers offense next season, and I can't wait to see it.
Oh, definitely. I think even going past his playmaking ability, which is something we've needed basically since we figured out that none of our point guards were going to pan out anytime soon, whether Jordan Farmar, Steve Blake, and Fisher declining. But I think the thing that especially people like, especially John Hollinger, posits all the time is that we really don't appreciate how good of a shooter Steve Nash is. That for him to, I think he has 4 or 5 50, 40, 90 seasons when the next guy has like 2. And the next guy is Larry Bird. So that in and of itself, I think just even when Nash became a triangle point guard and went to the quarter every game and did nothing besides that, we would already improve immensely. And then just I think how his shooting, especially off 1 foot, all those crazy 1 foot shots are just really off the dribble and he shoots so well on it. It's just crazy that we have him on the perimeter to balance off Howard in the post, Kobe in the post, and it's really nuts.
I was thinking about that earlier today, and I didn't watch nearly as many Suns games last year just because they weren't, quite frankly, very
come on, Jared Dudley, man.
Back off of my man, Jared Dudley.
Shannon Brown, let Shannon dunk, bro.
Oh, let Shannon dunk.
But I was thinking about Nash. He's always been kind of for all of his time in Phoenix and even most of his time in Dallas, he's been kind of the focal point of the offense in that he's starting the offense. But I'm not sure how he is as kind of a spot-up guy. Is that something that you guys think that he'll be able to excel at? Because in a lot of these situations, he is going to be a spot-up shooter.
As far as stats go, I'm pulling up Synergy as we talk, but I know his percentages are through the roof. I remember his shot chart was posted around about a month ago, and he's like 50%, 60% from everywhere, all around the inside the arc. Along the arc, he's a career 42% shooter. Last year, shot 39%. He'll be able to excel definitely at spotting up. He hasn't had a team to really help him just get open looks. He's been the guy to do everything for his offense.
Funny to think about Steve Nash and his past incarnations, because if you think about all the teammates he had on Phoenix and even with Dirk, almost 10 years ago at this point, or 8 years ago at this point, I think this Lakers team might have like two of his 4 most potent offensive teammates. Three out of the 4. Dwight and Powell and Kobe might be 3 of his best teammates ever on one team.
Oh, definitely. And to go back a little bit here, I pulled up Synergy. Steve Nash, points per possession, 1.27 on spot up, ranking him as 11th in the league.
Oh, Christ.
There's that.
Yeah. But going to Blake's point, I think there'll be an adjustment insofar, especially with the motions the Princeton will require him to do, because Nash will occasionally, once in a blue moon, well, not even a little more than that, will have to go and set a screen for someone. When's the last time that Steve Nash was the one acting as a screener for someone? So I think so there'll be an adjustment period, I'm sure, for him. But I think there was a comment earlier in the summer, or I forget who it was from, that kind of noted that it's different to shoot off the dribble as opposed to shooting off the catch. So, but I think mostly that's something we might worry about it as far as Nash streaming the offense, but I think that's something a shooter. He's so good that you can't really imagine him doing any worse when the shot is wide open as versus when he's on the move coming up a pick. So
Yeah, definitely, he should excel. I mean, again, he's going to have the easiest time to create for others and to let the offense flow for himself. And I think Blake did definitely bring up a great point that his ability to shoot it's been talked about, but it's not emphasized. And in a Princeton offense, you need guys to spread the floor. And he easily becomes the best shooter on the team. I mean, there's not anybody even close in the starters. Meeks off the bench can definitely put up some numbers. I expect him to be close to the 40% range from long distance. But yeah, Steve Nash as the shooters putting in points for us is definitely going to be another upgrade. And just praying to God he doesn't pull out the Derek Fisher foot on the line threes.
Oh God!
How many times I've screamed at my TV while Fisher did that?
Yeah,
I won't miss this at all.
It might as well be a Laker tradition.
Yeah, it's a requirement. Point guards need to be able to put up long twos with the foot. Go ahead and move forward here. I think we've covered Steve Nash and Dwight Howard enough, considering how much coverage is out there already on these two fellas. But yeah, basketball's here, fellas. I mean, we are going into media day on Monday. I don't even know what to expect. It's going to be a circus in Los Angeles. I know there's going to be pictures, sound clips, everything through Twitter. I do believe a few guys from Forum Blue and Gold will be out there. So yeah, I'll definitely be paying attention to what they have to say. But I'm pumped up, guys. I mean, I've been waiting for this season. This is the season I've been waiting for so long. Last season was such a grind. We lost Lamar Odom. The offense was terrible. Troy Murphy was shooting line drives. I mean, this is a whole new world. A whole new world for us. And Media Day tomorrow is going to be exciting.
This is just so silly. I just can't. Even writing about this team as much as I do, on the blog and talking about it as much as I do and thinking about this team as much as I probably shouldn't. I mean, it's just so. Can we just take a moment to just think about how silly this is? I mean, this team, I still can't believe it. I truly cannot believe that this happened.
But going on to, like, we talk about our our starting five, which just looks fantastic on paper. We're also going to our bench in recent news, in which I can't believe this happened. This is like, where does a spike track come out of somewhere? How does that happen?
Steve Blake.
To puncture poor Steve Blake's foot. And now we have a pseudo point guard controversy for the last spot. And we all know that Nash is great, but Nash has back problems, and Nash will probably play about 30 minutes a game. And we have to have someone on the floor who's not going to send the offense into a gutter in that period. And
about 18 minutes a game. We need somebody to put in solid backup minutes. And Steve Blake and that foot, if you guys haven't heard yet, I'm sure everybody has, he'll be out at least 3 weeks right now as it stands. And this is actually very good timing because we know what we're going to get out of Steve Blake. We've seen him these last 2 or 3 years out here. And his last season, he was shooting pretty well in the playoffs, but as far as his numbers go throughout the season, it was his lowest percentage from beyond the arc in his career. And this opens up the door for Mike Brown and the rest of the coaching staff to see what Darius Morris and Chris Duhon, and yes, I know travel dance, but Chris Duhon has a great chance to step up a little bit in this ladder here. I mean, he shot 42% from beyond the arc last season, and while he may not be able to dribble a ball in an empty gym, he can still put in the ability to give us somebody to spread the floor. But all sources seem to point to Darius Morris really having a great training camp, or going to have a great training camp. He put in, I think it was 10 pounds of muscle over the offseason to strengthen up. And I've never been a big Darius Morris guy. I was always about Goudlock, but Ben's always maintained Darius Morris is the playmaker. You know, he can be something if you give him the chance, and looks like he has a chance here.
I think it was a week or so ago on the merits of Duhon, especially at shooting. Yeah, so I think it's interesting, at least in the Princeton, it won't require him to handle the ball that much, so maybe that will help him in that regard.
And as far as defensively, a lot of people point that Duhon also is a little bit bigger than Blake. He can defend a bit, and like you said, he won't have to handle the ball in the Princeton. He'll just have to kind of stand out, and, I mean, he's done that for Dwight. He did that for Dwight last season in the four out, 1 in, and he shot really well. I mean, that's something we haven't had from the point guard position. Aside from when Ramon Sessions was just tearing it up in the regular season, he was shooting the hell out of the ball. But Duhon definitely has a chance to get some minutes here to show the team that he can do something. And going forward, I mean, again, 2 or 3 more things to cover here. Several people in the NBA, I mean, they've been talking about Metta World Peace. is in fantastic physical shape. Dude looks ripped. He looks like he's ready to go. He's focused.
He makes me heterosexually uncomfortable. He looks good. You know what I mean? We were talking about it a little bit earlier. I think that it's at this point, at his age, it's paramount for him to be quick, because he's always going to have that strength. He's always going to be able to, he's got a really strong core strength. He's always had strong legs, and that's not going anywhere. But what is his quickness. So it's just, when he showed up for the 2009 season, he very self-admittedly said that he was too heavy and he needed to cut down. And then towards the end of the year, he started making more of an impact. And it was the same story last season too. He came into camp out of shape and he worked himself up. And then you had those games, set of games in April where he just looked
impactful.
Dare I say dominant? He looked dominant out there, so dominant that he destroyed another human being's head on the court. That's
That's bad. But yeah, no, definitely. They're saying that he's at least 15 pounds lighter, and to go back on how his quickness is going to matter. He dropped 15 pounds. I believe Kobe dropped 10 to 15 pounds before the Olympics. I read somewhere. So clearly, our perimeter players are getting up there in age, but they're trying to slow him down, and do whatever they can to stop all their time. And I think that's going to be huge. He's our best perimeter defender. He has great hand speed. He's going to be matched up with the Kevin Durant's, LeBron James, Carmelo's. All those, great young wing players in the league right now. We need somebody to stop them to even have a chance at the chip here. And while we have Dwight Howard to protect the paint, we need somebody on the perimeter to slow it down and not just get ran by. And if he's in great shape, that's another great upgrade to our team, because in shape Indiana Pacers run can be a big difference for our team.
Definitely. Just also going off a point I think you were making in a previous article, if Jody Meeks, who ends up, if he pans out as we think he does, and he ends up playing a lot of two, for instance, when Kobe switches to the three, we get a more balanced offensive lineup out there. Metta's going to be playing a lot, assuming he has no big defensive matchup, with the bench, and there he's going to assume a much larger offensive responsibility. And if he can play as he did in April, when he was shooting well, he was getting to the basket, he was finishing at the rim, he was doing everything. I think that will definitely make a big difference, especially with the other people we have on the bench, with Jameson and assuming maybe one out of the starters. So it's definitely exciting to see that he looks about as ready for this upcoming season as we are, frankly.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he woke up one day and was like, oh, Steve Nash started doing some bench presses. A month later, Dwight Howard. Then he pulled out the pull-ups. He went all out P90X. He was doing insanity. This guy. You guys saw that picture. He is insane shape right now, and I'm clearly like Ben said, this guy is excited. He was excited to play with Kobe. Now he's got Dwight Howard and Steve Nash to play with him. So yeah, the biggest piece of news though over the last few days is, after a Area 51 type of silence around the Lakers, and Lakers are good for that, Dwight Howard looks like he'll be ready to play for the Dallas Mavericks opener on October 30th. Sources are saying this, and this is coming from Woj, not Broussard, so I have a little bit more faith, to say the least. Dwight's at like 85% strength right now, and we've seen the little clip from his little post-workout, and I didn't take much out of that. 85% strength according to Woj, eyeing that Dallas Mavericks opener. What do you guys make of it?
I suppose it could be the case. I think everything we've seen from the prognosis, at least from I think Robert Clapper, who does 710 on the weekends, just went out and said that this is something that it's pretty routine. He should be able to recover and come back 100%. Even if it is a back injury, it's not that severe. So looking at him from, like you said, it's hard to say anything just from limited video clips of him doing basic post moves without a lot of pressure on him, or just working on the exercise mill. But I think that early in the summer that we had reports that he wasn't able to run, and that now he's going and doing live basketball stuff. I think that's a pretty encouraging thing. So even if he doesn't play in preseason, that I think it's a fair thing to say that he might be ready for the opener, or at the very least, the first month, somewhere in the first month of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I've heard nothing but good things. I know that the surgery he had, I believe, was a microdiscectomy, which I think, from everything I've heard, everything I've read, is supposed to be 3 months of recovery and then like 6 to 12 weeks of rehab. So that puts him pretty much right on, right about the beginning of the season. I'm pretty shocked. I'm surprised the way that they made it sound, and maybe this is just, kind of the Lakers being a little bit nebulous, or maybe this is just whoever it is trying to not raise up hopes as the Lakers always so excellently do. But it just felt like November, December was something that was going to happen. But I just, the way that he looks and the way that he's not downplaying, I take more. I just take a lot of information in that he's not telling everybody like, nope, this is not happening. Don't even think about this. He's just kind of being very coy with it and all of his public appearances and stuff. He's not out and out saying like, hey, let's not. He is saying I'm better when I'm better, but he's not saying I'm not going to be ready. Yeah. Everybody just chill out.
Yeah, he's definitely not ruling it out, and he seemed in pretty good spirits. You guys catch him on Ellen the other day. I watched his little clip, and he seemed. I'm not gonna front. I watched it, and he looked pretty happy. He did a little Gundam style dance, and all smiles.
I was just watching Ellen, and I was surprised to see Dwight on. It was so great.
What do you know? No, but he looks like he's in pretty good spirits, and he was all smiles the day we signed him, and we had the same press conference same day because Mitch Kupchak couldn't hold that one in, and I expect him to be back on October 30th. I'm surprised that they said it already. I'm not surprised that it's a possibility. He, like Blake was detailing, that 5 to 6 month window, which is where he's at right now, seems about right. He's out there already working, and this is great to have him back at the start of the season when like Ben said, he wasn't even walking at one point. Is huge.
Yeah, sorry, Drew. Having him, I think it's even more important than having him back for the beginning of the season, because it's great. If he can suit up opening night, that's great. But to me, it seems like it's more important for him to play with the team. And so I'm not sure what his level of activity is going to be during training camp during the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. But it seems to me that that's probably the most important thing, is for the team to play with him, because we're talking, we've talked in the last half an hour or so about all these massive adjustments everybody's making. And I think the biggest adjustment, other than playing with Nash, obviously, is playing with this huge defensive pivot. And that's just so much more important to me. Mm-hmm. It's more important to me for him to be in training camp than it is for him to be there on opening night. I mean, opening night is a game, but obviously it's very important, but it's so much more important to me that everybody figures out how to play with each other, because that's
very true.
Yeah, that's so crucial to success here.
Oh yeah, I mean, success is everything. I mean, we have maybe a 2 to 3 year window most likely with Kobe. He's getting older. We got Steve Nash on a 3-year contract, and who knows what kind of opportunities we have once that all pans out. So. You make a great point, Blake. Him being in training camp, participating in training camp with the team scrimmages, even if he's not playing a preseason game, just being in the scrimmages and getting a feel for the flow is absolutely paramount.
Yeah, exactly. Great point. Preseason games, it would be great to see him there, but it's just more important to me that the team is around him every day and they're playing. They're they're running through schemes, they're running through the offense, they're running through whatever, with him on the court. I mean, it's cool to have Jordan Hill in there and say, hey, everybody, let's use Dwight. But, to have him on the court and to have them run through it, that's so important. So this team doesn't have to be handicapped when they get on the court on October 30th. And, they're still kind of figuring it out, essentially playing themselves into game shape. I don't want that. I want them to hit the ground running and to, win. God knows, I mean, we definitely cover this on an entirely different podcast, but just win a crap load of games.
You expect them to lose a game? I don't think they're losing all season.
Nope.
No. I think that they'll just cancel those games where they think they're going to lose, because it shouldn't happen.
Absolutely. So it looks great. I mean, we had a great time talking to you guys. I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast here. We enjoyed talking about the Lakers. We love them just as much as you guys do. And, I mean, it looks like it's a great season coming up. We have everything to look forward to, hopefully a parade down at the end of the year. But as it stands now, we got a media day to look forward to on Monday, training camp starting the following day, and that'll be a great start for, again, a hopefully wonderful new era for Lakers basketball. So this is Drew, a.k.a. Basketball Reasons.
This is Blake, the Great Mambino.
And this is Ben, as Ben R.
And we'll be closing out the Silver Screen Roll podcast. Thanks for joining us, guys.